Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Covering both sides of the big issues with the analysis you trust on News Radio 1040 WHO.
Somebody owns the website harriswalls.com. If you click it, all you see is the word walls on a solid colored background. That's it. The person who created that website, at least the domain, sold it for $15,000. But who did he sell it to? That is the real question. Joining us to talk about that is our friend, the patent professor, John Rizvi. John, you're very welcome. Slightly different conversation this time. This is interesting. I thought this kind of thing was illegal.
Yeah, well, it's a really confusing set of facts, and it confuses a lot of people. And particularly, what is unusual is that the person that had originally purchased this domain name, and remember, it was this guy has a lot of foresight. It was purchased back in 2020, so pretty much, over 4 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, perhaps. It's purchased in originally registered in 2019. But this is an attorney, Jeremy Atchie from Brooklyn, who is a self-proclaimed cyber squatter, and he purchases names, political names, domain names that he believes are going to become valuable one day. And this is not his first rodeo, because he earlier, prior to the 2016 election, he purchased ClintonCain.com, which was he was banking on the fact that Clinton would run with Virginia Senator Tim Kaine as her running mate, and that's exactly what happened. His prediction was right. He offered it to the Clinton campaign. They offered $2,000. So he was kind of felt miffed, and then ended up going to the Trump campaign and said, hey, you know what? You're running against Clinton Cain. Would you be interested in ClintonCain.com? And they purchased through an anonymous, purchaser. So he didn't know it at the time who he was selling it to, but they purchased for $15,000. So this person does have a really good track record in the past of predicting valuable political domain names. And this time, he's also been right. He's purchased harriswalls.com back in 2020. And then yesterday, he sold again to an anonymous purchaser. So we don't know who's purchased it yet, but it sold again for $15,000. And for those listeners of yours that don't know how much it costs to register a domain name, you can go to a website like GoDaddy.com or Name.com. It's $10 to register a domain name. So he's certainly made come out well ahead on his investment of $10 or $20 total to have sold both domains for $30,000 or $15,000 each.
Yep. So do we think maybe Trump bought this one as well?
We don't yet. I mean, it's hard to tell who would purchase it. Now, what happened in the past is when the Trump campaign purchased Clinton Cain, you're like, what would they want with Clinton Cain? They actually took that domain name, ClintonCain.com, and started anti-Clinton material on that website. So certainly, I mean, one thought is that if the Trump campaign has purchased harriswalls.com, you will see that name Walls that you see there now. That's, I guess, just a temporary like holding site. You'll see it full of anti Kamala Harris and anti Governor Tim Walz campaign information.
Right. Except I thought this was all illegal, though.
So there's 9 factors that are used to determine if a domain name is pursued in bad faith, and it certainly is bad faith if somebody owns a trademark, a registered trademark to a name. But one of a huge factor is timing. Are you purchasing something after someone already has rights to it, and you're just beating them to the registrar by registering it. And that's happened plenty of times in the past. For example, McDonald's.com was purchased by an individual to hold hostage McDonald's, and they tried to sell the name back to McDonald's. This was very common prior to a 1999 law passed, the Anti-Cybersquatting Consumer Protection Act. Now, after this act, known as the ACPA, now the courts look at 9 different factors, and one of the factors is whether there's who was first. And in this case, this person that registered, this attorney, Jeremy, actually registered way back in 2020 before Harris Walsh was even a ticket. So there was no rights. He didn't register names that a combination that was already trademarked or owned by anybody else. So that's going to be a huge factor. And, part of it is that the legal costs of pursuing this are likely way higher than $15,000, which is why these domain names end up being purchased, because you could bring a lawsuit and battle it out in court. But with the election around the corner now, you don't really have the time on your side. So that's why it's always, a lot of times these political domain names, they're purchased because time is critical.
Sure.
What good is the harriswalsh.com domain name going to be after November?
Exactly. I seem to remember. Well, I guess unless they win, and then they'll run again 4 years from then. In
that case, they've got a bargain. I guess they got $50,000 if they get 2 elections out of it.
There you go. I seem to remember somebody bought 21st Century Fox in the belief that 20th Century Fox would change their name after the millennia changed. I just got that in the back of my head somewhere. And then they try to sell it, obviously. There are circumstances. If I set up one, if johnrizvi.com was available and I went out and bought it and I said, hey, send me all your patent stuff with a big check, that would be illegal, right?
Yeah, well, you've actually, and I don't know if you know about this, you've touched on a really sore topic personally for me.
Oh,
because
I did not know about it.
Believe it or not, I saw about a year ago, johnrizvi.com registered, and I assumed for sure that this was bad faith, that it was possibly another competing patent attorney or somebody trying to capitalize upon my good name, and it's kept confidential. So I did not know who purchased this name. And in my entire life, I have never met, just so you know, I've never met another person named John Rizvi. So it never occurred to me that there could be somebody out there with the name John Rizvi who registered this domain name. So once I filed suit, in his response, he submitted a copy of his passport and birth certificate and driver's license. And sure enough, this individual was born John Rizvi. That was his name. And those 9 factors under the ACPA, the Anti-Cybersquatting Consumer Protection Act, did not apply because there was no bad faith. At least that was why the decision was not in my favor. So I could not get johnrizvi.com, which is a bit embarrassing for me as the patent professor to not be able to get. So the patent professor loses rights to his own name. However, I got some egg on my face with that one. But to this guy's credit, I did not know he actually had a legitimate purpose to his name, and that's why I say timing is everything. Like he was born John Rizvi before I registered, before the domain names even existed.
John, fascinating as always. If you want to find out more about John Rizvi, thepatentprofessor.com. Thepatentprofessor.com. John, thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll have you back. All right, you take care.